अच्छा ठीक जय हिंद viewers, welcome to Strive India. I am Col Akhilendra Singh. Strive is a fledgling think tank formed by a group of veterans based in Lucknow to analyze and present a balanced view on strategic and geopolitical issues that concern our nation. Views and articles on the subject written by our members are being uploaded from time to time on our website. Taking from this forward from here, Strive brought out its first publication, The Elephant, that's India, titled The Elephant Awaits Strategic Reflections 2023. The book has been published by Which Big Depot from Delhi and is also available on e-online and with Amazon. This is the first in a series of talks, dialogues that we'll have based on the book. And viewers, you're welcome to forward your comments and questions. The publication was conceptualized by our Editor-in-Chief, Maj Gen AK Chaturvedi. And I would request the General to give us a peek into the whats and hows of the book.
Thank you, AK. Actually, as you would recall, that our objective of Society for Transformative Research, Integration and Veteran Empowerment, that's a strive, when we conceptualized about 3.5 years back, was to deliberate on issues related to national security and nation building. And to that extent, as you recall, we started in the form of lectures, seminars, and a number of webinars. But like all other organizations, we also reached a stage which is called what next. And when we started thinking what next, ideally for a think tank, it is important that their research work is maximized. So then we decided to go in for a book. When we thought of a book, so we decided that we will have a book which will be a yearly event, and the name suggested was Strategic Reflections. So Strategic Reflections 23, when we started working on, the idea came that we should have a new India emerging. So India, as you very rightly said, India, that's an elephant. The India, that elephant awakes, that is a theme which we have taken, basically to highlight those facets of strategy, national security and nation building, which have a bearing on India coming of age. So this book actually, when we thought, we had again twin objectives. A, that we have tremendous amount of intellectual equity amidst us. So we should maximize the experience of our own members. Second was the areas where we don't have domain expertise, we'll approach authors who are from outside. So finally we came down to 26 chapters, which are divided into 5 parts. Part 1 is about geopolitics. Part 2 is about warfare and structures, related structures. Part 3 is internal security. Part 4 is infrastructure build-up and Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is, say, indigenization of equipment. And finally, without human dimension, no output can be complete, and national security, it has got a major implication. So fifth section was we have human dimension. So out of 26 chapters, 15 have been, say, authored by members of Strength. And the range is quite unlimited, starting with the, say, new emerging world order, China, Pakistan, Russo Ukrainian war, and things like this in the geopolitics, then effect of global warming, then net assessment to measure the national national power, then new facets of warfare, that is like space, cyber, uh, and also gray zone warfare. All these things were included. Infrastructure has got a very major bearing, so we got someone who is from outside of the strike. He also contributed. So all in all, it's a very, very complete book, and you will be very happy to know that the forward of this book has been written by none other than Chief of Army Staff General Manoj Pandey himself, and it has been blessed by the Raksha Mantri. It has also been blessed by CDS and the then Army Commander. Uh, we have amidst us one major author of the book, Gen Dushyant Singh, who has given his views on Russo Ukrainian war and impact on China. Actually, more than China, he has in his paper very lucidly given the impact of this warfare on the geopolitics of the world. So you may like to have some questions to him also.
Viewers, the European security architecture has been under pressure for the last 14 months and counting due to this Russo-Ukrainian conflict. General Dushyant Singh in his article brought out that this provides us with challenges and opportunities. US-led groups have already come into being in the region, like the Quad, I2U2, and the AUKUS. Now, the AUKUS is purely an Anglo-Saxon tie-up, whose interests do not always are in congruence with the rest of the West. So will then the other Quad and I2U2 play the second cousins? General, I would like request you to gaze into the crystal ball as to how geopolitics will play out for India, Russia, and China in view of the conflict.
Thank you, Lt, for giving me the opportunity to share my views on a very, very important and a relevant topic of today as far as geopolitics is concerned. Uh, First of all, I would also like to thank and compliment and congratulate the Strive for having come out with this totally exhaustive 360 degree of the world today and how India is positioning itself in this kind of a geopolitical scenario. Coming on to your question proper, coming on to your question proper, well, this is one area where uh, the security experts are finding it very difficult to hazard any guesses. You see, the world is going through a churning process because of three important major events which happened in the past few years. The first was, of course, COVID, which had a colossal impact on the economy, with only Chinese economy growing at about 1.25%, and rest of the world was going in the negative path. India just managed to scrape through during that period of 2020. But come 2022, I think India galloped as expected, and it is now the fastest economy. So India has positioned itself in the geopolitics of the world in a manner that is now being counted. So therefore, that is going to have an impact on the future global world order. Uh, uh, as far as the other issues are concerned related to geopolitics and how Russia, China, and India are going to pan out in the coming days, given the fact that the West has its own interests. Within the West, there are divisions which are taking place. There are powers which are declining. There are powers which are emerging and gaining strength. China has recovered more or less from its internal problems after he has strengthened his internal position at home. In fact, now he has a team which is totally and absolutely loyal to him. So therefore, whatever China is doing, it is Xi's calling. So Xi is now becoming all powerful, and mind you, he did not visit any country till the time he was sure enough that he is going to hold the reins of China for him. And once he was sure, 600 days is the total period he took to visit outside his country. That shows the leader's focus as to how he was going about it. Having sorted out his home, now he started off going out. What did he do? His biggest concern is oil and the chips and semiconductor. For oil, he's gone to Saudi Arabia. He's tapping both the worlds. He's tapping Russia. Russia has whatever losses he suffered, Russia suffered from Europe, it has gained from China. China refused to accept the ban or the limit of $60 per barrel, which was imposed by the West, and it is buying the Russian oil at market price. So, although we may say that China is not supporting Russia with military wherewithal, but indirectly it has provided the funds to the Russians. The second area where the Chinese are helping out Russians is in the semiconductor industry. The Russians are able to build on to the defense industry because of the continuous support which they are getting from, and that was one of the reasons why the Americans banned one of their companies in China from not doing exactly this. But all in all, I feel she is showing some very subtle approach to geopolitics. He is inviting Japan for a military exercise, knowing fully well that Japan will not be part of that. So, from his point of view, he is trying to show himself as a global statesman, which is something, in my view, will have an important impact as far as the global scenario is concerned. My take: China-Russia friendship is going to continue till the time both are looking at their interests in particular. Russia needs the money, China needs the oil. So Russia-China friendship will be permanent of permanent nature. What the two had stated during the Beijing Olympics, prior to the Beijing Olympics visit of Putin there. The India China Russia triangle is concerned, I think India will continue into that strategic autonomy mode, because India can compromise with anyone but for Pakistan and China, because similarly Chinese and the Pakistanis will not compromise with India as far as their specific interests are concerned along the border. It is not in the interest of China to give a freedom to India to continue to focus on economics, because that will get India closer to China. So the border issue will remain, and that's what was seen in the recent SCO summit, defense ministers meet, in which they said, "Where is the hurry to settle the border dispute?" I think the arrangements are good, stable on the LAC, and we should go ahead and cooperate in other areas. Coming down to the Russians are in need of both India and China, so they will continue in the manner which we are looking at. It is the US and the West who are now in some kind of a dilemma as to what approach they should follow. In their interest, I think the Russia-Ukraine war has come as a boon, because it has shot up the NATO's relevance in Europe. So America will continue to push to keep the war going. And somewhere they are finding this difficult, because Zelensky very recently has said that he's open to now dialogue, one-to-one dialogue with Putin. It's a big come down for Zelensky. So the US seems to be not taking too many risks because of the internal elections which they are going to have for the presidency. I think till the president's election, they are going to remain in this kind of a mode to keep the war, dragging along, but not let it come to a settlement. The defense industry of US has been given a new lease of life because of the war, and they would like this to continue. As far as the other Western countries are concerned, the Europe minus UK, I was seeing the trade between Europe and China. You will be surprised that the maximum trade which is taking place between Europe and China is today Europe has become the largest importer. It's a very surprising factor. Topping the list is Netherlands, followed by France, followed by Germany. Largest and keep largest exporter of goods from Europe. You know who? Germany. And Germany is technologically very proficient. So the Chinese are playing their game very smartly. Europeans are going by, like, I think Europeans are going the India approach. They are looking at also the other factor is any war or any confrontation, any conflict taking place away from the shores of Europe. I don't think the Europe is going to give the same kind of support which they are giving it to
European response monolithic, or it has got its own fault lines?
It has its own fault lines. UK for sure is absolutely on a different wicket altogether. In fact, I would put that UK has lost somewhere its strategic autonomy. UK is bandwagoning the US approach, and that is why you have the AUKUS arrangement which has come in. It was a shock for France because earlier the submarine development was to take place through France for Australia, and now that has gone to UK. You'll be surprised to know that the defense expenditure of US is $801 billion. Combined expenditure of China, India, Russia, France, and UK just manages to touch the US expenditure. That's the kind of money which is at stake, and therefore, US, in my view, is not going to underplay any of its world alignments. It is going to play out the Quad in its full capacity. AUKUS will be in its own place. I2UT may get expanded to I2U2 Saudi Arabia in times to come. Iran, Iran is going to be a problem for the US, and I think it is going to play the Israeli card to keep Iran under check. As far as China is concerned, US has to manage China. It is no more a competitive relationship as far as US China is concerned. Today, if you see the Pacific Sea, it is full of the Chinese forces and the American forces. I was just seeing the map where all their aircraft carriers, etc., are deployed. There is something major brewing up, and we will tackle that in your next question.
In any case, maritime, they have well past US.
Yes.
Strength that 370 crafts, whereas I think in, Russia, America is only 330 or something.
Absolutely. And the Chinese did a naval exercise targeting target ships.
Yes.
That was something, giving a subtle lesson and very close to the Taiwan and Japan area. So somewhere they are trying to give a signal to US that we have arrived.
Yeah. So one China policy is fading away.
Yeah.
So what would and should India's response be during a conflict between the two Chinas?
You see, Taiwan is a tricky issue as far as India is concerned. India has its interest in Taiwan. It is dependent on Taiwan for a lot of its semiconductor needs. That is one issue. The second thing is Taiwan being naturally anti, or I would say not aligned to China. Uh, it would be in our interest to support Taiwan, whether we do it directly, whether we do it indirectly. That's a matter of discretion. I think that would depend on the situation as to at what level is the conflict playing out. If the conflict is still in the dialogue and counter dialogue level, I think we should continue to remain in the current mode. But if it starts going into a conflict, we should play up with Taiwan in conjunction with the other forces which are going to support Taiwan. Because ultimately, we would need the same kind of support if something happens between India and China. So at some stage, I think we have to take a call from strategic autonomy to taking a position. But it is still hypothetical. What is the kind of situation at that point in time when this happens?
Vishnu, I have one or two questions on this.
Yes.
Keeping in view the historical animosity between Russia and China because of Suri River issue or the demographic invasion in Siberia, how transactional relationship is between Russia and China, and should there be the situation flares up in Indo-China relations, how Russians are going to say behave? That is one question. And second question I have is that China today, that two China policy, they had been saying that other issues can be kept separately and border issues, but no, they are also having against us things like stable visa issue, things like their support to Pakistan, their support to in FATF against India and NSG and all those things. How do you view this relationship for the progressing?
Uh, so the as far as your first question is concerned about Russia, China, one thing we need to realize that Russia is today being ruled by Putin, and Putin is a very ambitious and a powerful leader. He would not like to play second fiddle to China, and the strength to Russia comes from the fact that it is the largest holder of nuclear assets in the world today. It is using China, and the China thinks it is using Russia. So relationship, in my view, will remain transactional. Propensity to take military action is larger with Putin than with Xi Jinping. A personality analysis will reveal to you that the Chinese are primarily focusing first on the business relationship and then possibly keep this hard power as a backup to tell the people that I do have the wherewithal to respond to you if required. But have they responded post Vietnam is something which we need to take care of. They are responding in terms of military. They did the same thing as far as India was concerned. Whenever we used to have some kind of a configuration happening between India and China, they would start doing their military exercises in their famous training areas, but nothing beyond that, right? So my view is that the Russians feel, and even today they feel that they have the military capacity to beat China whenever they want, simply because of their overall military superiority. As far as money is concerned, I think the money will flow to them.
Because of the natural resources.
Natural resources.
They are so well into
Well reached, Siberia, etc. I mean, they are, in fact, Russia has recently commissioned the Power of Siberia's second pipeline.
Yes.
Now that pipeline, when it comes through, they will have money flowing to them.
Exactly. I mean, see, even this Vladivostok
The, the northern sea possibility is now going to become more and more important and relevant. And in any case, they are trying to find some route to
very, very nice thing you have raised about the Northern Sea. Northern Sea is how do you view that in future with Sweden and Finland both being part of NATO, that North Sea's relevance and importance becoming relatively important.
It's going to be very, very important. You see, Russia is being hemmed in. The borders of Russia have now extended. Earlier it was Ukraine and some parts in the south. Now it's going to Finland.
1300.
Yeah, now
It's 1300.
yes, now imagine they have
And St. Petersburg is just 300 kilometers.
300 kilometers. So now what you see is an extended line of confrontation the Russians are facing. So therefore, they have to have an outlet beyond the Crimean, etc. So Northern Sea, to my mind, is going to gain prominence in the times to come. They will start working harder on that, and the Russians are technologically quite advanced. I'm sure they will find solutions to their natural problems.
How do you view the second question that I said? How do you view that India's position vis-a-vis Indo-China, Indo-Russia, and Indo-US? India is presently in a swing state.
Yeah.
So, but how do you view this configuration?
So as far as India's position is concerned, I think India as of now has still not reached the levels where it can independently take a position and stand upon it on a permanent basis. So therefore we have to continue to swing from left to right. One thing is for sure that India has decided Pakistan and China are no compromise states. Compromise can be in terms of economics as far as China is concerned, but for that India is slowly but steadily building its Atmanirbharta campaign. Today, the exports, the defense exports I'm talking, stand at 13,900 crores, which is which is a huge amount from what it was way back in the past. The only thing which India needs to be careful of is that our quality control has to be good. The kind of helicopters which we are
Now,
producing.
some base materials, say like even vaccine-based material, then the many other things.
Yeah.
Say even the silica which we need for
Correct.
chips and all,
Correct.
that comes from.
That comes from China. The raw material for pharma comes from China. Although India is a pharma superpower, but still there are huge dependency as far as China is concerned. My view is India will continue to position itself in a similar manner at least for some time to come. For 10 to 15 years, I see India growing similar path.
Thank you, sir. Viewers, you're welcome to send your comments and any questions that you have on this aspect. We will continue this series and conversation with the various authors that we have in our book. Thank you.